it on the sunayke. He be screaming out to the Ummah of this world, saying you're to blame.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Contemporary Islamic Concepts and Issues. I'm your host, Arqam Rashid. In this episode, we will continue our conversation on the concept of takfir. Last time when we were speaking about takfir, we established what takfir is, the reason behind it, and who is allowed to make takfir. And the Shaykh gave us a wonderful explanation defining for us what takfir is, the reasons and purpose behind takfir, and also who is allowed to do takfir. We said that we will continue our conversation in discussing the rules and conditions and obstacles that one can face when it comes to the concept of takfir. So let's start off by welcoming our wonderful guest, Shaykh Asim Al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and I'm happy to be here.
And it's always a pleasure to have you on, Shaykh. So the last episode you gave us a wonderful explanation of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set down rules for takfir. We didn't get into the detailed rules and the conditions of takfir, but you spoke about people misusing takfir, and you gave us the two sides that, one side throws around takfir left and right with any bad deed that you do, or any major sin actually, that you do, they put you in takfir. And the other side who completely denied takfir, as if it doesn't exist almost. And you said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid down principles. So let's start off a little bit with the rules of takfir. What are some of the rules when it comes to takfir?
Okay. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa ihtada bihuda. First of all, Allah Azza wa Jal did not put to us the rules of takfir as in 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yet the scholars who look into the Quran, who look into the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and his sunnah, came up with a number of rules. So rule number 1, as mentioned earlier, takfir is not something that a person simply gives away or labels others with without knowledge, because this is something that Allah Azza wa Jal has preserved for himself. And the Prophet ﷺ is the one who is interpreting that to us and teaching and elaborating on such evidences. So it is not for anyone to come and label others. Otherwise, we would be living in a jungle. I don't like you, I give you takfir. And in the 70s, there was a group in Egypt who were notorious in giving takfir and killing Muslims. It was called takfir wal hijra. So they give takfir to anyone.
Their name was takfir?
The group was takfir wal hijra. And they give takfir to any Muslims who did not join them. So they use the same concept of George W. Bush.
You're either with us or against.
If you're not with us, you're against us. And they used to rob jewelry shops and people's savings, saying that they're kafir, so we can do whatever we want. They used to rape and assault women because they are kafir. And this is totally against Islam. The concept of abusing and raping and harassing, even for the kafir, it's not permissible. But these guys were lunatics, were fanatics. A better group came after them, or at the same time saying that we are at-tawaqquf wa-tabayyun. We're not like them. No, we don't give takfir to people. But we don't give Islam to people either. So we are in between. You, name Arqam Rashid. You look like a Muslim, but still I have to give you a test. So it's a multiple question test. It's yes, you have like 10 minutes. Answer it. If you fail, you're a kafir.
It's timed as well.
It's sort of, you know, I'm just making fun of it.
Yeah.
But to this extent they went, that I would not pray in this masjid. Why, ya akhi, the adhan, the imam is reading the Quran? Yes, but I don't know if he's a Muslim or not. So this shows you that their deviancy is evolving. And it is based on ignorance. These are ignorant. They have ill intent. Maybe they look sincere to you, but because they have diverted from the understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah, they have reached this conclusion. So rule number 1, takfir is not to be given to anyone, because this is an Islamic ruling set to us by Allah and the Prophet ﷺ, except those who are blatant kafir. So then we have to cascade the issue further. Rule number 2, takfir is divided into 2 types. A general type, which is known as a takfir by description. And this is widely spread in the Quran. Whoever does this is a kafir. This act is kufr. So we are giving, it's like cursing someone. When the Prophet says, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ آكِلَ الرِّبَى, may Allah curse the one who deals with riba. I cannot go to someone working in an interest-based bank, a teller or someone giving service, and I say, MashaAllah, you open accounts? He says, yes. I said, may Allah curse you. Why are you doing this? He said, because the Prophet cursed those who deal with riba. No, the Prophet cursed, alayhi those who are described by the following characteristics. Likewise, takfir is 2 types. 1, general takfir. So we say, whoever prostrates to an idol is a kafir. But if I see someone prostrating to an idol, I cannot say, Abdullah is a kafir because now he's prostrating to an idol. Which a lot of the people don't understand, and hence fall into takfir because of their negligence of this second ruling. He said, yes, whoever does this is a kafir. I said, I agree. So he's doing it at the moment. I disagree. Because there are conditions to be fulfilled. Maybe the guy dropped his keys and he's looking underneath the idol for it, and you thought that he was prostrating. How can you give him takfir without fulfilling the conditions and ensuring that the obstacles are not there? And we will talk about this if you wish, and if there's enough time.
We'll get into the obstacles, inshallah.
For that.
Yeah.
So these are the rules. Takfir by description. Takfir of an individual. And this is what we don't want. And this is what the Muslims, the terrorist groups, the extremists, even the youngsters are easy to draw the gun. They have like hair trigger fingers. They come and say, look at the rulers of the Muslim countries. They do this and that. They're kafir. So the ruler is a taghut. And this, you read this on their Facebooks and the social media platforms, accusing every Tom, Dick, and Harry of kufr. And they have no knowledge. And when you tell them, fear Allah, they say, we know Allah better than you. Subhanallah. This is the greatest sign of ignorance. So the 4th rule is to identify the conditions, know them, and make sure that they're implemented, and to identify the obstacles and make sure that they are not there, because these obstacles prevent you from giving takfir. The lack of fulfillment of these conditions prevent you from giving takfir as well. And finally, takfir is a ruling given by the scholars after communicating with a particular individual of what he's doing and why he's doing it and the consequences of his action. Takfir is given by them accordance to what we see in this world. What happens between the individual and Allah Azza wa Jal in the hereafter, this is not to us. So even if we give takfir to an individual, after fulfilling all the conditions, he is a kafir, we cannot say he's in hell. Because this is something only Allah knows about. But we are told to judge according to what we see. And I'll give you a third and final example.
Sure.
I hope I didn't bore you to death.
No, I'm actually writing down some questions I have for you that are coming to my mind.
Akhi, we know that children are not accountable. So we know that if a child dies, that he will, the most authentic opinion, end up in paradise. But what about if a child of disbelieving parents, of Christians, Jews, whatever, and he dies, do we consider him to be a Muslim and treat him as a Muslim? The answer is no. He's 5 years old. We say on the Day of Judgment, he will inshallah go to paradise. In this life, he has to be treated as a disbeliever like his parents. So we don't bury him in Muslim cemetery. We don't wash him, shroud him, or pray funeral prayer, though he is not accountable. But we judge him in accordance to the dunya rulings. And I hope this clarifies it.
Yeah, it makes sense. So basically, if a child dies, then the rules of janazah and burial depends on whichever religion his parents are. They conduct it, but we believe that he will go to Jannah on the Day of Judgment. That's between him and Allah subhanahu
Correct.
wa ta'ala. Okay. Some of the questions that popped in my mind, one of the things that you said was, once the scholars see this sort of act in a person, then they communicate with this person to inform him of what he's doing, and then they make a decision or come to a verdict after that. So I mean, what I extract from that is that this person has to be informed that this act that he's doing is kufr. Is that the case here? That, for example, if I see him doing an act that's kufr, and then I communicate with this person, or not me, but as Islamic scholars, they communicate with this individual to figure out if this person's intention, or does he even know that this act is kufr? Is this the...
Well, actually, it has to be communicated if there is room for doubt. For example, there are things that totally get a person out of the fold of Islam. So if someone, for example, sees a mushaf, and he knows that this is a mushaf, and he says, look at this Quran, he puts it on the ground and he steps on it. So he knows it's Quran, and he's telling everybody that this is Quran. There's no justification for this. This is a full-fledged kafir, on the spot. You don't have to say, Akhi, what was your intention? Was it to get like a couple of inches higher, or was it to reach out for the No, there's no excuse. If someone curses Allah, or mocks the Prophet ﷺ, or denies an ayah of the Quran and says, yeah, this is ayah of the Quran, I don't believe in it. So definitely that this is blatant kufr. You don't need justification for it. Most cases of kufr, you have to clarify and you have to give and take. That's why there is the concept of istitaba. This is the request
of asking for forgiveness,
of asking for repentance of an individual. So istitaba is not for me. I go to a specific individual who's been accused of a sin or of an act of apostasy or kufr, and I give him istitaba. The jurors usually give him 3 days to change his mind. So for example, a person doesn't pray. He pray. He said, I don't want to pray. You don't believe in the pillars of Islam? He said, I believe in the pillars of Islam, but I don't want to pray. Akhi will chop your heads off because you're an apostate. He said, I'm not going to pray. So we lock him for 3 days to give him a chance to reflect. After 3 days, Akhi, come on, pray. This is one of the pillars of Islam. You're not a Muslim. If you don't do it, he said, I know, but I don't want to pray. In this case, after istitaba, he is to be beheaded because he's a full-fledged kafir. Even if he admits it, leaving prayer, and this is the only deed that leaving it nullifies Islam, nothing else nullifies Islam but leaving such a deed, this person is a full-fledged kafir. Other than that, maybe he has obstacles to prevent us from giving him takfir. So we have to interrogate him. We have to communicate with him. Why did you do this? Explain yourself. We show him the evidences. Maybe he was ignorant, etc. So these fall under the category of fulfilling the conditions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and ensuring that these obstacles do not exist, because there are obstacles that prevents us from giving takfir to the individual.
Well, I have one more question, inshallah, but before we go for that question, we're going to go for a short break, and after we come back from the break, we're going to continue with questions dealing with the conditions of takfir, and then we'll get into the obstacles and the conditions that are there, or barriers that are there, we can say, for when a person is doing takfir of somebody else. So stay tuned. Sheikh, I was wondering, can I ask you a question?
Be my guest.
can I make ijtihad on my own? Is takfir an Islamic concept? Are Salafis a sect? Do I have to give da'wah to people? And is interfaith dialogue haram?
Akhi, this is not one question. These are important topics and issues that require we sit and discuss them, inshallah, thoroughly.
Actually, why don't you guys join us for these discussions on contemporary Islamic issues and concepts?
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was here today.
Welcome back to Contemporary Islamic Issues on Huda TV. Now, before we went for that short break, we were speaking about the rules of takfir. We said when we come back, we're going to continue with the questions on the different categorizations that the Shaykh gave when it comes to the types of takfir. And then we said we will get into the barriers or the obstacles that are in the way of a person that is about to do takfir. So Shaykh, one of the categories that you mentioned was takfir by description. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a certain description and said, this act is kufr. Now, the question might come to mind is that, what about a person who doesn't know about this act? He doesn't know that this act is kufr, or even this act is bid'ah, or whatever it may be. He doesn't know. He thinks this is a perfectly legitimate Islamic act. And maybe this is the society he grew up in, maybe this is what he learned from the scholars, but he's a layman. He doesn't know that this is kufr, and he commits this act. Does he become a kafir, or is the act kufr and the person is still Muslim?
It's an issue of dispute among scholars. The most authentic opinion is that Allah does not hold people accountable until they know. وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. Allah would not torment a group of people or a nation until He sends to them a messenger. And the messenger's job and role is to inform people of what to do and of what not to do. And this is the most authentic opinion because it fits Allah's fairness and justice. And another question that usually comes to mind is that if there were to be a group of people in Siberia or in Alaska or in a far remote area in the jungles of Africa or the Amazon who had never heard of anything related to Islam, what is the ruling on them? To us, we say that they're kafir. You remember, you're either a Muslim or a non-Muslim. All non-Muslims are kafir. So we treat them in this life as kafirs. We don't give them salam, we don't pray for them, that Allah would forgive their sins. However, we know and acknowledge the fact that those who do not know, those whom Allah Azza wa Jal did not send them the sufficient knowledge to be accountable, they'll come on the Day of Judgment and they'll be tested and tried accordingly to be decided whether they go to heaven or hell. So this includes those whom did not receive the message, those who were deaf, blind, and could not communicate. So there are no means of knowing or learning. Those who were insane since puberty. Okay, they're not accountable, but we have to decide whether to put them in heaven or hell. And the likes, on the Day of Judgment, the hadith states that Allah Azza wa Jal, when they come and give their excuses of being ignorant, of not hearing, of not meeting the messenger, Allah would tell the hellfire to send something like a big snake, and Allah would tell them, enter it. And those whom Allah Azza wa Jal willed that they would be from the people of paradise, they will enter it. Though they're seeing it's from hell and it's taking them to hell, but because of their compliance of Allah's order, this means that they're believers and it would take them straight to paradise. Those who use their logic or hesitate and say, how can we enter hell and we see it's blazing fire? These are disbelievers because now it's the only command that Allah has given them, and they've seen heaven and hell. Yeah, you don't have to think twice. So because of their refusal, it will take them forcefully, and they will be among the people in hell.
Very interesting. Now, something that you also mentioned in the first half of the program was that there are obstacles or barriers before one can even go and do takfir. Now, what we want to do is discuss at least some of these barriers and some of the major obstacles, if you can do that for us, inshallah.
Okay, before we, well, let's go for there, because there are conditions
Yeah.
and there are obstacles, and usually they're interlinked. So one of the conditions is knowledge. So the obstacle is ignorance.
Ignorance.
So if a person was ignorant of the ruling, I cannot give him takfir. And I'll give you an example. In the Sahih, a man gathered all of his children and family while he was at the time on his bed, the deathbed. And he said, how was I with you? And they said, you were the best of fathers, the best of husband, the best of so-and-so. Then the man says, by Allah, I was a sinful person. And I want you, after I die, to cremate me.
Yeah.
The word is to cremate me, and to take my ashes and scatter them on the top of the mountains and the bottom of the valleys, on the oceans. And listen to what he justified this. He said, because by Allah, if Allah was capable of bringing me back, He would torment me and torture me severely. So after they did what they asked them to do, Allah Azza wa Jal ordered the top of the mountains and the bottom of the valleys and the oceans to gather his remains, and the man was standing in front of Allah. So Allah the Almighty, and this is the hadith, Allah the Almighty says, what caused you to do what you had done, my servant? And the man says, fearing you, O Allah. And then Allah says to His angels, I have forgiven his sins, take him to paradise. Now the man declined or denied the fact that Allah is capable of resurrecting him after being cremated and thrown all over the place. But he did not do this except due to his ignorance. And this is why Allah accepted his excuse and admitted him to Jannah. So ignorance is quite important.
Yeah.
Should I go on or?
Yeah, okay, so the first one, what I understand, is knowledge and ignorance. If the person is aware that this act is kufr, right, then it's a different story. If he doesn't even know, like the hadith that you mentioned, that, you know, even though he said something that's kufr, saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he said it out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't know that this act was kufr, and he had sincerity in him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, forgave him for that sincerity that he found in him. So that's the first condition.
Correct.
Not first in order, but that's one of the major conditions.
Yes.
What would be...
And this would also fit the example that some people ask. What about those who worship graves, who go to peers and saints and ask them for intercession and do this and do that? What is the ruling on them? Would their ignorance be part of the obstacles that would prevent us from giving them takfir? And the answer is yes, because they don't have knowledge. So this is one of the things. Now, the other obstacle would be misinterpretation. So the person is not ignorant, but he understood something in a wrong way. So his misunderstanding would block us from giving him takfir.
Okay,
And
so it's similar to ignorance as well, but in a different way. So he doesn't understand the concept, he misunderstood it.
correct. Example, Qudamah ibn Mad'un, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. At the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph, the companions found him drinking wine. And the guy drank wine and was wasted. He was drunk. So they didn't know what to do. what is this? He's a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and he's drinking. So they told Umar about him. So Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, told them to ask him and interrogate him. Why did you do this? Because it's an act which is a major sin, but it is unexpected from someone in his caliber as a companion. So he said that there is a verse in Quran, chapter 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 93. It's a long verse that I don't think I'm going to read the translation, but it simply says that there is no burden on those who are righteous and believing and kind, no matter what they consume, if they were righteous and right and so on, so on, so on. So he said, Allah says that there is no burden on me, no matter what I consume. Now, he did this out of misunderstanding the verse. The verse was revealed when the people in the Battle of Uhud started thinking of their brethren who were martyred. And they were martyred before the prohibition of wine. So some of them went to battle with traces of wine in his stomach because it was permissible. There's nothing wrong in it. He wasn't doing any haram. So they said, "O Prophet of Allah," they were martyred with traces of alcohol, of intoxicants in their bodies. So Allah revealed this ayah saying that there is no fear on them because they were righteous, they were practicing, and it wasn't prohibited at the time. So Umar, when he knew of his justification, may Allah be pleased with him, sent to his companions. And he told them to explain it to him and then ask him, do you think that wine is halal or haram? If he said it's halal, chop his head off. He's a kafir. But if he said it's haram, yet due to this justification I can drink it, then flog him 80 lashes. So he admitted that it is haram, and they flogged him 80 lashes. So misinterpretation can be one of the excuses of preventing someone from falling into takfir.
All right. Thank you very much, Sheikh. We've come to the end of the program. Now, it's alhamdulillah, we were able to cover at least two major obstacles to give the viewers an idea of what are some of the conditions and obstacles when it comes to takfir. Dear viewers, I hope you guys benefited a lot from these programs. Inshallah, keep joining us for more contemporary Islamic views on contemporary issues. And until then, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was here today, watching all the brothers and sisters divided on the sunnah he gave. He'd be screaming out to the ummah of this world, saying you're to blame. Return to the guidance of Allah that will set you free.